G'day friends, welcome to day 29 of Inktober 2017. There are only 2 days left, so I don't want to start patting myself on the back just yet because then I feel like something bad will happen, but I'm feeling pretty good that for every day of October there will have been a video posted and there will be an Inktober piece for you to look at. So, having said that, I have taken a lot of people's comments into consideration, and I have tried to develop a few things so that I could release this collection out into the wild. Things like that can be a little tricky, and I don't want to harp on too much about it, but just know that I have been looking to do some certain things. I've been testing quality, I've been testing companies, and let's just say I'm yet to arrive at a point where I feel comfortable going any further with some of this stuff. So I do want to release these out into the wild. Do not stress, they will definitely become available at some point, but I still have to make sure that whatever I'm putting out there, I'm okay to put out there. You know what I mean? Like, I got a quality control process, and I'm a bit of a stickler for that kind of stuff. You know, I wouldn't want to put anything out there that I personally wouldn't use or purchase. So yeah, it's been a bit of a tricky time navigating that for myself, and it's obviously no one's fault but my own. But I'm trying. So please don't feel like I'm gonna leave you hanging high and dry. I will definitely let you know what happens when it happens. And yeah, another small thing that I just have to note, because I feel like sometimes I get a few questions on it. Limited quantities of stuff only happen really because I have to front a lot of the costs for whatever I take into development. So say stamps. When I took the stamps into development and the washi tape, I had to front all the costs of the initial, you know, the startup, the manufacturing, the shipping, all that kind of stuff. And it's always a bit of a risk, and this is just very typical in business. You know, it's always a bit of a risk to put your money forward and, you know, put your money where your mouth is and start doing it. So I don't like to be super risky to the point where I might bankrupt myself and Steve and the cats, and that we won't even have the opportunity to upload videos anymore. Do you know what I mean? So I do take that thing kind of very slow and serious, and only make sure that I do as much as I possibly can before it starts becoming a little too risky. So I'll just leave that with you, just in case you were wondering why sometimes things are only in limited quantities. Sometimes things are just limited edition. That's just the way I want it, and the way that I like to run it, just for the pure fact that I'm still only one person doing everything. So I don't physically want to overload myself and then be unavailable in all the other areas. Say if I do, like, you know, if I kept orange grab bags up through the entire year, I'd still be, you know, I'd spend hours a day packing those and making those and shipping those out. And then I wouldn't get around to making videos, or I wouldn't be able to take on something like Inktober or Halloween. And I believe that I do want a really, really healthy balance of products that I put out there, and I do want a healthy balance of YouTube videos and still social media engagement. Even at this point, I have really overloaded myself, and I've been so neglectful of, like, replying to comments and stuff. And I keep saying it, but I know it doesn't really help. I do read the comments, I just don't get back to a lot of them. I find that I'm probably the most active on Instagram. So if you ever really want to ask me a question, I typically am better at responding on Instagram, but I still always read the YouTube comments as well. I'm just awful about getting back to them. But I do sit down and giggle over coffee in the morning when I read a lot of your responses to the videos, especially the Halloween stuff that's been going up. It's been so funny. I love sharing stories with you all. I love to give you a bit of an insider scoop into how my mind works, because it can be a bit of a dangerous place in there, but I feel like it helps kind of establish why I do a lot of the stuff that I do and why I like to share. Steve seems to think that it has a lot to do with me being a Leo and a performer. I'll let you make of that what you will. Was he being kind, or was that a subtle read for me? I don't know. I do believe that, though. I love to share. I really, really do love to share my passion with people, and I love to see that reciprocated. And I think that being on social media, whilst I've said before in an Inktober video, it can be pretty scary, it's very, very rewarding. And so that's a lot of the reason why I still share as much as I do. And yeah, so I don't know, I'm pretty sidetracked by myself at this point. I today's piece is called She Is Magical. I wanted to get back to a couple of the whimsical things that I like to put in my art journals. You know, like little pixie faces, those little cute little kiss curls, and giraffe-like spindly necks, and you know, just odd twisty bodies and proportions. I think jumping off of what I said yesterday about proportions, you can see here I've really taken that neck super long and a little bit angled. I've twisted her body in a way that doesn't really make sense physically, and one thing that I do notice, and please don't get me wrong here, I don't hate this piece, and I'm in no way trying to bash myself here, but if you don't take your piece in as a whole and start looking at it from almost every angle as you're doing it, you could get to the end and be like, how did that happen? I looked at this piece, and then when I finally finished, I looked at the top of her head and I was like, wow, like it's very skewed. Like the top of her head became a lot longer than it looked as I was drawing it. You'll see in a couple of the close-ups, if you look from the side angles and from below, and kind of from the vantage point of where I was sitting when I was drawing it, you can, it doesn't look as long. It kind of looks a little bit shorter. You know, when people paint like sidewalks and they do that 3D effect, and it works from when you're standing, you know, 20 feet away, but when you walk up to it, you can start seeing how elongated and stretched out some of those elements are to make it look 3D. Kind of had the same thing here, where the top of the head became a little bit more warped and a little bit more skewed than I thought it was. So I did put a crown over it just to try and break some of that up a bit. It's really not the end of the world. I think we're all our own worst critique, but I do think a bit of self-criticism is necessary, because you need to know what you like and what you don't like in order to discern what you're going to do next and how you're going to move forward. If you really, really like something, you're supposed to tell yourself that you like it, and you need to note that for when you do it again. And then if you don't like something, it's always good to have that in the back of your mind, just to know, oh, I've had this problem before. Maybe I'm going to stop to check and make sure that my my angles are okay, or the skew it's not a skew, you know what I mean? So I'm not bashing the piece at all. I'm actually super happy with the collection of Inktober pieces that I have. I really, really like looking back at it, especially going back to day one and then looking to now. You'll see that I'm still using a lot of the same techniques. I'm still pushing it, but I think what's really changed is the kind of sense of abandon that I go into using ink with now. I feel a lot more confident just to lay it down and get it going. So much so that in this piece, I actually started with a solid grey wash on the page. I kind of mapped out with the brush where I wanted to go, and then I kind of limited myself to only drawing within that grey space. So I had to fit her face to fit into that circle. I had to put that neck in that line somewhere. I could make it as thick as that line, or you can see that I actually slimmed it down and kind of left it a bit of a grey halo around the neck. And then the body had to fit into that kind of ink brush stroke that was coming down the page. So I think that was an interesting technique to try, and I don't know if I would have had the courage to necessarily try something like this towards the start of the month, because I was very, very aware of what I was doing at the start, and I was very, very hesitant to try a lot of different things, or to just be super confident about it, which was normal, because, you know, I do love playing with the inks, but up until this point, I feel like the only time I ever really pulled out that black ink and these brushes was to do very dry brush techniques, very simple illustrations. So to learn how to build up a lot of layers and do a lot of different types of illustration that I like to do, and playing with the same mediums, has been very eye-opening for a few of the possibilities that I might want to take into November, December, January, 45 years from now. Maybe I'll still be playing with this ink, who knows? There was a lot of ink in that bottle. As always, the products are listed down below if you want to check out my favorites that I've been using, and that white Uniball Signo. I feel like most people know what that is, so I haven't linked that, but it's a white Uniball Signo in broad. So I've called this piece She Is Magical. I think she's very magical, and I had a great time. Until tomorrow, please enjoy the rest of the Halloween series. Today's video is crazy, but I love it, and yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.